On today's show, we'll discuss the outcome of President Muhammadu Buhari's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. As always, you can join the conversation with a hashtag on Twitter at Beyond Markets and follow my Twitter handle too at Esther Ubodaga. President Buhari's recent visit to the White House gave the two leaders the opportunity to have bilateral talks on important issues affecting both countries. Now, with President Buhari being the first Sub-Saharan African leader to be hosted by U.S. President Trump, we ask, what does this really mean for Nigeria as a country? Bismarck Rewane, CEO of Financial Derivatives, joins me now for this discussion.
First and foremost, the meeting is a continuation of the whole attempt to take advantage of economic diplomacy. Don't forget, earlier, Buhari had met with Theresa May and had attended the Commonwealth meeting. So that was fresh. Now, coming to talk about Nigeria-U.S. relationships, it's important because the U.S. is our second most important trading partner after China, both on the import side and the export side. So what does this mean? It means that Nigeria has come to the table with an administration who believes in bilateralism rather than multilateralism. But ironically, Nigeria was at the forefront of the African Free Trade Agreement, which they bungled and
what we hear is they want to have a wider consultation.
No, but not after the Federal Executive Council had approved it. So that's another way of saying that we were not organized. But now that we've done this, it's now clear because we're talking about more trade, free trade, and taking advantage of the opportunities on the table. But I think you've got to look at it in two perspectives. One, trade. Two, investment. So the U.S. is worried about the Chinese dominance of the African space. The U.S. thinks that the Chinese are taking advantage of the weaknesses of African economies too, and the moral laxitude in Africa. So what is the U.S. doing? The U.S. is putting these things, offering these carrots, right? Investment carrots. So Nigeria went there, one, to take advantage of the trade, two, to solicit for investments. And the investments, key to the investments were oil and gas, which is Chevron, as you know, and ExxonMobil. Mm-hmm. So those two are very critical. Boeing, because of the equipment for almost all the aircraft in Nigeria, Boeing origin. So our parts, our type rating, our simulator, and all of that, both cabin and cockpit crew, engineering, all done. Then thirdly, most important is the General Electric transaction. The General Electric transaction for the running and concessioning of the Nigerian narrow gauge for the entire railway should have been done 3 years ago. We've stalled and stalled and stalled, and now we've done it. I think it was prompted because of this and the urgency to look good politically as the campaigns are coming. Now, secondly, General Electric Power provides almost all the turbines for GENCOs, which is critical. Nigeria has 2,000 megawatts of stranded power which needs to be integrated with this. Nigeria has just benefited from the World Bank review and reorganization of the power sector. So here is General Electric providing the turbines. Here is General Electric reorganizing the rail line. And don't forget that 15% of the cost of Nigerian companies is in distribution and logistics. By having the railway working, I know, don't expect it to happen overnight. Having the railway working, you can actually reduce and optimize the cost structure of Nigerian manufacturers. So, to that extent, in terms of its impact, in terms of its, what I call optics, it is good. And it shows that, at least, finally, the Buhari administration is coming around to doing things and doing them now, rather than just delaying them.
Now, that being said, now I've followed a lot of President Donald Trump's his policies. I mean, I've listened to many of his comments, especially around trade with certain countries. We know, I'm sure you know about the trade spat with the Chinese, and that broader rhetoric of America first. Even though he said America first doesn't mean America alone, but he just he's painted that picture of, look, we're going to do what's best for America, America first. You know, the whole populism thing. But so marrying or reconciling that now with him making statements like wanting to be a preferred trade partner or partner of choice with African countries, and still wanting to provide aid. So it just feels like he's saying one thing and then he's saying another, and he's contradicting himself, I mean, for lack of a better word, with another rhetoric. So I'm just wondering, what is the policy, what is the direction, as it were?
No, first and foremost, let's understand something. President Donald Trump, with all due respect, is a businessman first and a president second. And so he's caught in that conflicted, contradictory statement, personality issue. But America is a leader of the free world. The Adam Smith's wealth of nations and everything built around democracy, free economies, free trade, regional integration is there. But America has 3 levels of interest. America has what we call vital interests, in which case, even without consultation, they would take steps to do anything. They would land in that place and grab whatever it is, like what happened in Panama. Then you have what they call strategic interests. America's strategic interests, in which they say Nigeria now falls into, and if I don't buy that completely, strategic interest means that you consult with Congress, you do that which is in your long-term interest, and you sustain it. So strategic interest, oil; strategic interest, gas; strategic interest is ensuring that there's peace and stability in certain critical areas of the world. 1 in 4 Africans are from Nigeria, so Nigeria has to be somewhere strategic. The 3rd level of interest in American foreign and economic policy is what they call general interest. General interest is where, okay, if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, no problem. Now, so we have migrated from general interest level to strategic interest level. You have to, like what's happening in Israel, I know that becomes vital, right? So the fact that you are 2/3 of the way is important. Now, how do you make it a win-win? That is, it's good for America, it's good for Nigeria. The African rhetoric, when you talk about you are one of the African countries, is not important. Trump does not go to China and say, you are one of the Asian countries. You deal with China one-on-one, right? You deal with Korea one-on-one. So anytime a country is lumped into its continental context, it actually devalues you in terms of your negotiating capacity. And that's why it's important that Nigeria went there and said, okay, this is what I want. And I listened to the press conference. Nigeria is the first African country that has gone there.
But I think he's met with the Rwandan president Kagame before. Well, that was I think that was during Davos. After when all the African presidents left, where he stayed behind and said he was, it was a fruitful meeting, as it were.
But the reality is that what does Nigeria want to accomplish with this visit? Nigeria has got the helicopters, the controversial helicopters, right? We got that sorted out, security-wise. Nigeria has been established as one of the most important countries, or the most important country in Africa, because the head of state has gone there. Nigeria has also cleansed to a large extent its human rights record by talking about the fact that they would do things. Trump talked about the Christian-Muslim issue, which was out there on the table, but it wasn't a game changer. But generally speaking, Nigeria has been able to use China as a stalking horse to get America to come across. And so, and today they've announced a 1 Naira swap transaction. So when you take all of that put together, it's win with China, it's also winning with the United States, and also deliberately getting something from Britain and the Commonwealth. So when you look at it the way it should be, one can say that Nigeria comes out of this, not smelling like roses, but at least getting something.
With a reasonable smile on the face. Let's still talking about trade. There's still the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, that's been in existence for 19 years now, and Nigeria and Angola are the biggest beneficiaries so far. So I'm thinking that we already have that in existence. So is this going to complement AGOA, or how does AGOA come into the picture?
I think the first and most important thing, as far as America is concerned, is the military coordination, because there's a U.S. military presence in the Gulf of Guinea, which is somewhere in Ghana and around this place. There's that, and so that there are no surprises, so we are able to contain ISIS, contain Al-Qaeda, contain Boko Haram, and make sure it doesn't it's not detrimental to business. But also, Nigeria has a big market for U.S. products, and the U.S. has a market for Nigerian products. But Nigeria is, first of all, trying to satisfy its domestic demand. So exports, non-oil exports, non-oil and gas exports from Nigeria is less than 8% of its total exports. So what do we have? Cocoa, sesame seeds, and some other things. So it's not going to move the needle, but symbolically it's good that we have a market, and then as we increase our capacity, we'll begin to feed into that and make ourselves competitive.
Okay.
But I also must point out that intra-African trade is only 10% of our total trade. So we need to focus. We cannot run away from the issue of our commitment to regional trade in Africa.
Intra-African trade. I was just going to come to that, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the progress made so far, the number of African countries that are signed up, and what it just, the benefits, I mean, opening or having African countries take advantage of the very huge market, like right here on the continent, getting, of course, removing all those trade barriers and the seen and unseen. Some African countries are still skeptical about it, Nigeria, South Africa. But I'm thinking, and of course, some analysts tell us that there may be an initial $4 billion loss, but in the long term, it will benefit, African countries. But many of them, especially the smaller ones, fear that, their goods, their industries are not competitive enough. Even a country like Nigeria, NLC kicked against it, that our manufacturers, our small businesses are still not competitive enough compared to some other African countries that have lower interest rate environments. So I'm just thinking, at what point can we say, okay, we're okay to come back to the table and be a part of it?
First of all, I think it's pathetic that Nigeria fumbled and bungled the free trade agreement. The total, first and foremost, the trade amongst African countries is about almost $500 billion.
Yeah, we're here between 12 and 15%. Well,
yeah, but
that's low.
If you are comfortable doing long-haul trade, why can't you even do trade within your own countries? Nigeria has a population of maybe 190, 180, 170 million people, right? The 44 countries that signed onto the agreement put together, their economies put together, is not up to that of Nigeria. The main beneficiary of a free trade regional integration is Nigeria, right? Because Nigeria, if increases production and taps into its own comparative advantage, has this market for it, and it's not taking it. Secondly, it's not when, it's not if, it is when. The more you delay it, the less it's going to cost you more.
I've been speaking to Bismarck Rewane, CEO of Financial Derivatives.